Hey, the Dolphins are in first place in the AFC East, and the NFL trade deadline is fast approaching, so I need you to let me know right away. Do you think the Dolphins will make a move before Tuesday's deadline? Type T for trade or P for pass. We're going to talk all about what they should do next on Dolphins Today. What's going on? Let's take a little Dolphins inventory from the very top on today's edition of Dolphins Today. I'm your host, Jake Riepma, and it's a good spot to be in. 6-2, first place in the AFC, and clearly, the Miami Dolphins are one of the premier teams in the AFC, and thus, they can confidently say they are buyers at the NFL trade deadline on Tuesday. And if you want to win the Super Bowl, I know we say it all the time. When you say Miami, we're talking Super Bowl, right? But at 6-2 and one of the best teams in the AFC, clearly the best offense in all of the NFL, it is realistic to start talking about those as the aspirations. Now, what does that mean for the NFL trade deadline? Well, one NFL insider, Dianna Russini from The Athletic, seems to think Miami is among the teams, and to use her words, that are poking around at the idea of trading for a running back. And this is something that was discussed early in the season. In fact, in the preseason, when Jonathan Taylor was in so much turmoil in Indianapolis, the Dolphins were linked to him possibly. Of course, Dalvin Cook a little bit earlier in the offseason. So this is nothing new. But now, all that talk was before the emergence of Raheem Mostert, who in my humble opinion is among the elite running backs in the NFL. Pair him with Jeff Wilson Jr., who is fresh off the IR. You take a look at their production from the game against the Patriots. And yes, it was a little bit of a down game for Raheem Mostert, just the 46 yards. He had 45 yards the week before on Sunday Night Football against the Eagles. But when a guy is the number one, and I got to make sure, he's tied, that's right, he's tied with Christian McCaffrey for the most touchdowns in the NFL. The production is obviously there. Now for Jeff Wilson Jr., just his second game. And oh, by the way, must we not forget the one and only De'Von Achane, the rookie that burst onto the scene. Yes, he's on IR right now, but eligible to come off of the injured list after the bye week, which is just a few short weeks away. So De'Von Achane is still part of that running back room, in my opinion. Yes, he's on IR, but he's coming back sooner rather than later, and you can't argue with the production. In fact, he was, in my opinion, the leading candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year before the injury. Look at the yards per carry there. That's what jumps out to me. 12.1. Are you serious? And that's in 4 games, 38 carries, 460 yards. So De'Von Achane still a part of that running back room. Of course, you've got Raheem Mostert as well. But when an NFL insider uses the terminology, the Miami Dolphins are poking around at the idea, we got to ask the people. So you be the GM. Do you want the Dolphins to trade for a running back? Type Y for yes or N for no. This is about as easy as it gets, in my humble opinion. I won't speak for you, but it's a resounding no for me. This Dolphins offense is already the best in the league, and I know running back is a position that you need a lot of depth. It's unpredictable, and we've seen it. I mean, look at Jeff Wilson Jr. starting the season on IR, De'Von Achane on IR right now. You got Chris Brooks also on IR. That's another running back for the Miami Dolphins. So I get it. Injuries happen. You can never have too many running backs, but I love the guys that this Dolphins team has at the running back position. So it's a resounding no for me. Coming up, we're going to talk about a couple of more potential trade candidates, or trade targets, I should say, for the Miami Dolphins, because after all, that deadline is coming up quickly. But before that, I got to tell you about Prize Picks, and I hope you hear the excitement in my voice because I cashed in on a Prize Pick on this past Sunday. How about that? But first, I'll tell you how it works as you get a look there at my beautiful Prize Pick board. With Prize Picks, it's the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. You simply pick more or less on a player's projected stat line. So see what I did here for a little Dolphins football. And I know I'm bragging. That's because this baby cash. Check. Tua Tagovailoa, more passing yards, 276.5. Tyreek Hill. This one was kind of easy, even though 91.5, that's a lot of receiving yards. But you knew the Cheetah was going to get that. Pick more. 91.5 check. And the defense stepped up to complete the trifecta for me at the Prize Picks. They held Mac Jones to less than 224.5 yards passing. So check, check, check. That is a Prize Pick dub. And that's why I love playing Prize Picks, because I win every time. No, of course not every time. But you too can join me on the Prize Picks train. It's a ton of fun. And like I said, far and away the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. We always put the link in the description for you. We make it easy on you. But one more time, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS. And for being a Dolphins fan, being a subscriber of Dolphins Today, we've got a $100 deposit match waiting for you. One more time, that's prizepicks.com/CLNS. PrizePicks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Now, I'll continue to go along with Dianna Russini's tweet about the Dolphins poking around at the potential of bringing in a running back. So who are those running back trade targets? Here's a few that have been mentioned as possible trade pieces. Derrick Henry for the Titans, Dalvin Cook, newly acquired by the Jets just this season, was, of course, in Minnesota before that. Saquon Barkley for the Giants, Ernest Johnson, as well as Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, again, I gave you my take. I don't think any of those pieces mentioned before this are coming to Miami. It is what it is. I love this Dolphins running back room. I love where they're at. Devon Achane's coming back. And right now, Raheem Mostert deserves to be the guy toting the rock and taking the bulk of the carries. And this offense, again, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. First in rushing offense, first in passing offense, first in yards per game, and oh yes, first in points per game as well. I'm good with the running backs. I'm good. Now, I've read the comments. I've heard you. I know where we're not good, and that is on the offensive line. My goodness. How many injuries are we going to take up front? It seems like every game we're telling you about a couple of offensive linemen that are questionable, a couple of offensive linemen that are fighting the injury bug, and a couple of offensive linemen that are already on the IR, like Terron Armstead, who is, by the way, some good news on that in a little bit. Isaiah Wynn, another one on the IR. Connor Williams, all season long, battling injuries. Rob Hunt left Sunday's game. Austin Jackson's about the only one that we haven't linked to a couple of different injuries. So I get it. The offensive line as a position, A, you need some depth for it, especially when you consider the expectations for this Dolphins team and hoping to make a run to the Super Bowl, and B, because you've been plagued by injuries as well. However, they're not season-ending injuries. At least they're believed not to be season injuries and ending injuries. And let's start with former Pro Bowl tackle Terron Armstead. This from Barry Jackson saying, Terron Armstead will, in fact, let me just double down on that, will travel to Germany and could start practicing this week, which would open up that 21-day window that we've talked about. Meanwhile, Rob Hunt day-to-day with the hamstring injury. So the Armstead news is really positive, in my opinion. How about a couple more Dolphins offensive linemen that have recently suffered some injuries? Kendall Lamb missed 5 plays with an abdominal injury yesterday, and Long, as well as Sealer, who went into the medical tent, are also day today. That's David Long, the linebacker. So McDaniel said he feels good about all three with regards to health, and they will practice in some extent this week. So, again, it's the National Football League. Injuries are going to happen. You're going to be banged up 8 games in. I get it. But you've got the trip to Germany to take on the Chiefs. Then you've got the bye week to get healthy and rested. Also understanding, look, this is a team with Super Bowl aspirations, and depth is king. So I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. I get that. We can go back and forth a little bit. This offensive line has been pretty good despite all the injuries, but with the trade deadline coming up, let's identify a few targets. Starting with the Bleacher Report article that mentioned Kelvin Beachum, who's fallen out of favor a little bit in Arizona, not getting the reps that he was in prior seasons. He is an 11-year veteran and has the versatility to play a little bit of guard, play a little bit of tackle, but again, just hasn't really played a lot for the Arizona Cardinals this year. And of course, that's a team that's going to be looking to sell at the deadline, as they are nowhere near being in contention. But truth be told, I think it was just a matter of mentioning a potential offensive lineman that's out there for the Bleacher Report article. I'm saying I don't think he really helps you that much on this Dolphins offensive line. I feel good about the guys that would be in front of him. So I'm going to go on Kelvin Beachum. Now, another target that's been identified, Ezra Cleveland for the Minnesota Vikings. New man on the Minnesota Vikings, right? Follow me along there. Now, Ezra Cleveland's production has been a little bit better. He's played 6 games this year, 372 snaps. I like just the 2 penalties and the only 1 sack allowed. And the Pro Football Focus grade, that can be all over the place. You know, who's to say what that grade really means, but you like the 73 grade there. So the production has been there for Ezra Cleveland. He's a guy that maybe I circle as potentially somebody to make a deal for. And lastly, from the Chicago Bears, also in the NFC North, you've got Cody Whitehair. Now, Cody Whitehair, I don't think he's going to be dealt at the deadline. But when you look at his 2023 stats, he's played in all 8 games, 489 snaps with just 1 penalty. Pretty impressive. The 3 sacks allowed, and of course, the Pro Football Focus grade hasn't been phenomenal per se at 45.4. But those are 3 potential offensive linemen for the Dolphins to make a move for. So I ask you, play a little GM with me. Who do you want the Dolphins to go for? Let me know in the comments. KB for Kelvin Beachum, the 11-year vet. Ezra Cleveland, who's played for Minnesota this year. And then Cody Whitehair, who's played in all games for the Chicago Bears. Let me know in the comments below. Now, if the Dolphins do, in fact, make a deal, which is a big if, I'm going to go with Ezra Cleveland. I think he's a guy that at least provides some depth, some value without having to mortgage the future. Now, again, Chris Grier and that front office for the Miami Dolphins are going to ultimately do what's best for the team, what's best for the organization, and what they feel gives them the best opportunity to win. And if bringing in another offensive lineman is that move, my vote would be for Ezra Cleveland from the Minnesota Vikings. But we know the trade deadline is coming and coming quickly, so this is your reminder. Set an alarm, do whatever you got to do, set an alert, subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure you join us for our live coverage on Dolphins Today for the NFL trade deadline. It's going to be electric because if breaking news happens, we're going to be live. We're going to be live on the air. It'll be awesome. You'll want to join us for that for sure. So the NFL trade deadline on Tuesday at 4 p.m. So we'll be live the final hour of that deadline leading up to it. And you know what? If something crazy happens earlier in the day, maybe we'll hop on live then as well. Because when breaking news happens, we've got you covered on Dolphins Today. That is why you subscribe. Shout out producer Jack. Thanks everybody for watching. Can't wait to see if the Dolphins are active at the deadline or they stand pat. We'll see. Join us for Dolphins Live tomorrow on Tuesday. Thanks so much for watching this edition of Dolphins Today.